Ladies, imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, staring into the abyss of your own worth, wondering why someone you poured your soul into treated you like a footnote in their story. You gave everything, your time, your heart, your dreams, and yet, somehow, you ended up feeling like an option, a backup plan, a momentary convenience. Sound familiar? Now, let me ask you something that might sting. Have you ever let someone define your value? Have you ever let a man's indifference, his half-hearted texts, his fleeting attention make you question whether you're enough? If that hits home, stay with me. This isn't just a story. This is a wake-up call, a rocket launch into a new orbit of self-worth. And men, if you're listening, I'm talking to you too. Stop doing this one thing to women. Stop treating them like they're disposable. Because when you do, you're not just hurting them, you're setting yourself up to lose something irreplaceable. Let's dive in, full throttle, no holding back. Picture a guy, let's call him John. John's the kind of man who'd move mountains for the woman he loves. He's loyal, relentless, the kind of guy who'd stay up all night to fix a problem, who'd drive 500 miles just to see her smile. Sound like someone you know? Maybe it's you, ladies, in reverse, pouring your energy into someone who barely notices. John gave his all to a woman who, frankly, didn't deserve it. She took his loyalty for granted, tossed his devotion aside like it was yesterday's news. She'd ghost him for days, then drop a crumb of attention knowing he'd come running. And he did, for years. He begged, he explained, he tried to prove he was enough. But one day something snapped. Not in anger, not in a blaze of drama, but in silence. John walked away, not to make her jealous, not to prove a point, but because he finally saw the truth. His worth was never in her hands. It was in his. And when he left, quietly, without a word, it shook her world harder than any argument ever could. This, ladies, is where the story flips. This is where you stop being the one chasing, the one explaining, the one waiting for someone to see your light. And men, this is where you need to listen up. When you treat a woman like she's just an option, you're not just disrespecting her, you're dimming a star that could have lit up your universe. I'm not here to sugarcoat things. I'm not here to tell you life's all rosy and easy. I've built rockets, dug tunnels, wired neural networks into the future. Trust me, nothing worth having comes without struggle. But the biggest mistake a man can make is underestimating a woman's worth. And the biggest mistake a woman can make is letting him. So let's talk about what happens when you stop letting someone else hold the pen to your story. John's exit wasn't loud. He didn't post cryptic quotes on social media. He didn't fire off a 500-word text explaining his pain. He just left. He started building, not a company, not a rocket, but himself. He hit the gym not to impress her, but to feel strong. He read books not to quote them, but to expand his mind. He set goals not to show off, but to give himself direction. And you know what happened? She noticed, not right away, but when the silence stretched on, when his absence became a void she couldn't ignore, she started scrolling through his life, looking for clues. But there was nothing to find. No drama, no breadcrumbs, just a man who decided his energy was too valuable to waste on someone who didn't see it. Ladies, this is your moment. You are not a footnote. You are not a backup plan. You are a force, a supernova waiting to explode. And men, when you treat a woman like she's less than that, you're not just hurting her, you're cheating yourself out of something extraordinary. I've seen what happens when you underestimate potential. I've seen it in business, in tech, in life. When you dismiss a great idea or a great person, you're not just saying no to them. You're saying no to a future that could have changed everything. Think about it. Every time you ignored her calls, every time you made her feel small, you were pushing away someone who could have been your partner in building something epic. And ladies, every time you let him get away with it, you're dimming your own light. Now, I'm not saying this to make anyone feel guilty. Guilt's a waste of energy. I'm saying this because we're at a turning point. The world's changing fast. We're building AI that thinks cars that drive themselves, ships that'll take us to Mars. But none of that matters if we can't get the basics right, respecting each other, seeing each other's worth. Men, stop treating women like they're replaceable. They're not. And women, stop letting anyone convince you that you are. John's story isn't just about a guy who walked away. It's about a guy who realized his value wasn't tied to her approval. And when he didn't just change his life, he changed the game. Let's get real for a second. I failed plenty. Companies, projects, relationships, you name it. But every failure taught me something. You don't win by staying stuck. You win by moving forward, by building something new, even when it hurts. John didn't win by arguing with her. He didn't win by begging her to see his worth. He won by becoming a man she couldn't reach. not because he was playing games, but because he was done playing hers. And ladies, that's your power too. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to beg to be seen. You just need to start building your life, your dreams, your future. And when you do, the people who didn't value you will feel the weight of your absence. This isn't about revenge. Revenge is small, it's petty, it's a distraction from the mission. And trust me, I know missions. Whether it's colonizing Mars or rewiring the human brain, the only thing that matters is focus. John focused on himself. He stopped orbiting her chaos and started building his own galaxy. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Ladies, stop orbiting someone who doesn't see your light. Men, stop pushing away the one person who could have been your co pilot. Because here's the truth: the universe doesn't reward those who play small, it rewards those who dare to build, to grow, to rise. So, what's the one thing men need to stop doing? They need to stop treating women like they're disposable, like they're a side quest in a game that's all about you. Because when you do that, you're not just hurting her, you're hurting yourself. You're cutting off a partnership that could have taken you to places you can't even imagine. And ladies, don't let anyone dim your shine. You're not here to be someone's option. You're here to build empires, to change the world, to leave a mark that echoes across generations. John's silence wasn't just a walk away, it was a declaration that he was done letting someone else write his story. And that's where we're starting today, with you picking up the pen, writing your own future, and never letting anyone make you feel like you're anything less than a force of nature. This is just the beginning. We're not here to dwell on the past. We're here to launch into the future. So, ladies, ask yourself, what's the one thing you're done tolerating? And men, what's the one thing you're ready to change? Because the moment you decide to stop playing small, the moment you choose to value yourself and the people around you, that's when the real mission begins. Let's build something unstoppable together. All right, we've set the stage. You've heard John's story, a guy who walked away from someone who treated him like he was expendable, not because he wanted to hurt her, but because he realized his worth wasn't up for debate. Now, let's pivot. This isn't just about walking away, it's about what you do next. Ladies, this is your moment to stop letting someone else's indifference shrink your universe. And men, this is your wake up call to stop treating women like they're just a pit stop on your highway to nowhere. I'm going to talk to you like I talk to my teams at SpaceX or Tesla, straight, no fluff, with a vision so big it scares you. Because if we're going to change the game, we've got to stop playing small. Let's dive in. Imagine you're designing a rocket. Every component matters. Every calculation has to be precise. You don't slap together a half-baked engine and expect to hit Mars. Relationships are no different. When you treat a woman like she's just a cog in your machine, someone you can swap out without a second thought, you're not just sabotaging her, you're sabotaging your own mission. I've seen it in engineering, and I see it in life. The biggest failures come from underestimating the value of what's right in front of you. Ladies, you're not a cog, you're the whole damn rocket. And men, if you're treating her like anything less, you're the one crashing before liftoff. Let's talk about what men do that dims a woman's light. It's not always the big betrayals, the cheating, the lies. Sometimes it's the small, insidious stuff. The unanswered texts that leave her wondering what she did wrong, the half hearted, I'll call you later, that never comes, the way you lean on her for emotional support but vanish when she needs you to show up. It's the moments you make her feel like her presence is optional, like she's just one of many apps running in the background of your life. I've built companies from scratch, and let me tell you, nothing kills progress faster than neglecting the core systems that keep everything running. Women aren't your backup battery. They're the power source that can light up your entire operation if you let them. Now, ladies, here's where you come in. When a man treats you like you're disposable, it's not just on him. It's on you to decide what you're going to tolerate. I'm not saying it's your fault, hell no, but I am saying you've got the controls. You're the one steering this ship. If he's not valuing you, don't wait for him to change his mind. Don't sit there analyzing his mixed signals like they're telemetry data from a failing satellite. You don't need his approval to launch. You don't need his validation to soar. You're not here to orbit someone else's ego. You're here to break free of gravity entirely. Think about what I do when a project fails. When a rocket explodes on the pad, I don't sit there crying over the wreckage. I dig into the data, figure out what went wrong, and build a better one. That's what you need to do when someone underestimates you. Don't let their failure define you. Use it as fuel. Every time he ignored you, every time he made you feel small, that's data. It's telling you he's not up to the mission. So what do? You don't argue, you don't beg, you start building, you start constructing a life so big, so bold that his absence becomes irrelevant. I'm talking about mornings where you wake up with a purpose, not a question mark. Evenings where you're working on your goals, not scrolling through his profile, wondering why he didn't text back. Days where you're so focused on your own trajectory that his indifference is just background noise. Men, let me be clear. When you treat a woman like she's just an option, you're not just hurting her, you're screwing yourself. I've seen what happens when you overlook talent. I've seen teams fail because someone didn't value the person who could have solved the problem. Women aren't here to stroke your ego or fill your downtime. They're here to be your partner, your equal, your co-founder in a life that could change the world. You think I built Tesla or SpaceX alone? Hell no. It took teams, partners, people who believed in the mission as much as I did. When you dismiss a woman's worth, you're not just losing her, you're losing the chance to build something bigger than yourself. And trust me, there's nothing worse than looking back and realizing you threw away a shot at greatness because you were too busy playing small. Ladies, let's talk about power. Real power. Not the kind that comes from chasing someone's attention or proving you're enough. I'm talking about the power that comes from knowing you're enough, period. I didn't get to where I am by waiting for someone to hand me permission. I built my own path, brick by brick, failure by failure. And that's what you need to do. Start small if you have to. Read a book that challenges you. Hit the gym not for him, but for you. Set a goal, a big one, like launching a business or mastering a skill, and chase it like it's your mission to Mars. Because when you start building, something shifts. You stop caring about his half-assed texts. You stop wondering if he'll notice you. You start noticing yourself. And that, ladies, is when the game changes. Here's a story. Um, a woman I know, let's call her Sarah, was in a relationship that drained her. The guy was charming when he wanted to be, but most of the time he treated her like she was just there. She'd plan dates, he'd cancel, she'd share her dreams, he'd shrug. She spent years trying to make it work, thinking if she just loved him harder, he'd see her worth. Sound familiar? One day Sarah had enough. Not because she hated him, but because she realized she was wasting energy on someone who didn't see her as a partner. She didn't yell or fight, she just walked away. And then she did something radical. She started investing in herself. She took up coding, started a side hustle, and hit the gym like it was her job. 6 months later, she was running her own startup. A year later, she was speaking at conferences. And you know what? He noticed. Not because she was trying to make him jealous, but because her light was too bright to ignore. But by then, she didn't care. She'd built a life that didn't need his validation. Men, when you treat a woman like she's disposable, you're betting she'll stay small. You're betting she'll keep chasing you, keep begging for your attention. But here's the thing, a woman like Sarah doesn't stay small. She's not going to orbit your chaos forever. And when she breaks free, when she starts building her own empire, you'll be the one left wondering why you didn't see her potential. I've made that mistake in business, underestimating someone because I was too focused on my own goals. It's a losing bet. Don't make it in your relationships. Ladies, you don't need to wait for someone to hand you a blueprint for your life. You're the architect, you're the engineer, you're the one who decides how high this rocket goes. And men, if you're lucky enough to have a woman in your life who's willing to build with you, don't push her away. Don't treat her like she's just along for the ride. She's not your passenger, she's your co-pilot. And if you can't see that, you're the one who's going to crash. This is about more than relationships. It's about how we live, how we build, how we show up in the world. I didn't get to where I am by letting other people define my worth. I got here by failing, learning, and building something bigger than the failures. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Ladies, stop letting someone else's indifference shrink your vision. Men, stop treating women like they're expendable, because when you do, you're not just dimming her light, you're dimming your own future. Let's stop playing small. Let's build something that outshines the noise together. All right, we're in deep now. We've talked about walking away from those who don't see your value, and we've called out the mistake of treating a woman like she's just a pit stop. But here's where we shift gears, where we stop looking back and start looking up. Ladies, this is about you seizing the controls of your own mission. Men, this is about recognizing that the woman in your life isn't just along for the ride. She's a force that can propel you both to new heights. I'm talking in the language of someone who's built rockets, rewired industries, and stared failure in the face. Your worth is your rocket fuel. Don't let anyone drain it. Don't let anyone tell you it's not enough. And don't you dare sit on the launch pad waiting for permission to soar. Let's go. Ladies, let's start with you. You know that feeling when you're pouring everything into someone, your energy, your dreams, your late night thoughts, and they treat it like it's pocket change? It's like building a prototype for a game-changing electric car and having someone shrug and say, it's just a car. That's not just disrespect, it's a signal. a signal that they're not on your wavelength. And here's the thing, you don't need to tune yourself to their frequency. You're not a radio station. You're a goddamn satellite broadcasting your signal across the cosmos. So why are you still trying to get a signal from someone who's not even listening? I've spent years iterating on designs, scrapping ideas that didn't work, and pushing forward even when the world said it was impossible. That's what you need to do with your life. Stop tweaking yourself to fit someone else's blueprint. Start building your own. Think about what it takes to launch a rocket. You need fuel, precision, and a destination. You don't just point it at the sky and hope for the best. Your worth is that fuel. It's not something someone else hands you, it's something you cultivate, refine, and protect. When a man makes you feel like you're not enough, like your light is too bright or too dim for his world, that's not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of his inability to see the stars. And ladies, you are a constellation. You don't need his telescope to shine. You need to start seeing yourself as the mission, not the support crew. I didn't build SpaceX by waiting for NASA to tell me I was good enough. I built it by knowing the mission was worth it, even when it blew up literally 3 times in a row. Your life is that mission. Don't let someone else's indifference ground you. Now, men, let's talk. You want to know the fastest way to tank your own potential? Keep treating the woman in your life like she's a side project. Like she's some hobby you pick up when you're bored and drop when something shinier comes along. I've seen what happens when you overlook the critical components of a system. You end up with a rocket that doesn't fly, a car that doesn't drive, a neural network that doesn't learn. Women aren't your backup plan. They're the core tech that can make your life exponential. When you dismiss her, when you make her feel like her ideas, her emotions, her presence don't matter, you're not just hurting her, you're short circuiting your own future. I've made that mistake in business, thinking I could go it alone, ignoring the people who could have amplified the mission. Don't do it in your relationships. A woman who's valued, who's seen, who's treated as an equal, she's not just a partner, she's a multiplier. She's the difference between staying grounded and breaking orbit. Let's get practical. Ladies, how do you start rewriting the rules? You stop playing by theirs. You stop measuring your worth by how fast he texts back or how many likes your post gets. You start measuring it by the progress you make every single day. Set a goal, something big, something that scares you. Maybe it's starting a business, running a marathon, or learning to code. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's yours. Write it down, break it into steps, then execute relentlessly like you're launching a Falcon 9. I don't care if you fail the first time. I failed 3 times before SpaceX got a rocket into orbit. Failure is just data. Use it, adjust, launch again. Every step you take toward your goal is a step away from the version of you that waited for someone else's approval. Men, your job is to stop being the guy who makes her question her worth. You know what I mean? The guy who leaves her hanging, who makes her feel like she's competing for your attention. I get it, life's busy. You've got your own goals, your own hustle. But here's a truth I've learned from building companies. Nothing great happens in isolation. You need a team, you need people who believe in the mission as much as you do. And if you've got a woman in your life who's willing to build with you, don't push her away. Don't make her feel like she's auditioning for a role in your story. Treat her like a co founder, not an intern. Listen to her ideas, value her emotions, show up when it counts. Because when you do, you're not just building a relationship, you're building a legacy. Let me tell you about Maria. Maria was a dreamer, always sketching out big ideas, starting a nonprofit, traveling the world, writing a book. But the guy she was with, he'd roll his eyes, tell her to be realistic, or worse, act like her dreams were cute but irrelevant. She spent years shrinking herself to fit his world, dimming her spark to keep him comfortable. Then one day, she stopped. Not because she wanted to prove him wrong, but because she wanted to prove herself right. She started small, took a course, saved up, made a plan. A year later, she was running her own nonprofit, impacting lives, traveling to places he'd never even heard of. And you know what? He reached out, tried to reconnect, but by then Maria was on a different trajectory. Her rocket was in orbit, and he was still stuck on the ground. Ladies, Maria's story is yours. You don't need someone else to sign off on your dreams. You don't need permission to be extraordinary. And men, don't be the guy who tries to clip her wings and then wonders why she flew away. I've spent my life chasing the impossible electric cars, reusable rockets, a future on Mars, but none of that would mean anything if I didn't have people who believed in the vision, who pushed me to be better. Relationships aren't a distraction from your mission, they're part of it. So, ladies, start building your rocket. Men, start valuing the woman who's ready to fly with you. Because when you rewrite the rules, when you stop letting someone else's indifference define you, you don't just change your life, you change the universe. We're pushing forward, full speed, no brakes. By now, you know the deal. Your worth isn't up for negotiation, and treating someone like they're disposable is a one-way ticket to a crash landing. But let's take it deeper. This isn't just about walking away or rewriting the rules. This is about creating a light so bright, so undeniable, that no one, not a man, not a doubter, not even your own fears, can dim it. Ladies, I'm talking to you about building a life that's yours unapologetically. Men, I'm talking to you about stepping up not as a savior, but as a partner who amplifies that light. I've spent my life chasing crazy ideas, rockets to Mars, cars that outrun gas guzzlers, brains wired to machines, but none of that compares to the mission of building a life that radiates purpose. Let's get to it. Ladies, let's start with a hard truth. Every time you let a man's indifference pull you into self-doubt, you're handing over the controls of your rocket. You're letting someone else decide your trajectory. I've seen this in tech, in teams, in the chaos of startups. The moment you let external noise dictate your path, you're done. You crash. Not because you're not capable, but because you gave away your power. When a guy leaves you hanging unanswered texts, vague promises, that cold shoulder that makes you question everything, it's not just disrespectful, it's a test of whether you'll keep chasing his shadow or start building your own light. And here's the kicker, you don't need to chase anything. You're not a follower, you're a creator. You're the one who builds the future, not the one who waits for it. Think about what it takes to build something groundbreaking, like a Tesla or a Starship. It's not just about the tech, it's about vision, grit, and refusing to let doubters derail you. When someone treats you like you're less than, like your dreams are too big or your emotions too much, they're not just dismissing you, they're trying to pull you into their orbit. Don't let them, you're not here to spin around someone else's world, you're here to launch your own. Start by reclaiming your energy, stop wasting it on decoding his mixed signals or wondering why he didn't show up. That's like burning rocket fuel on a test run that's going nowhere. Instead, channel that energy into something real. Learn a skill that scares you, coding, public speaking, painting. Set a goal that feels impossible, like starting a business or running a 26-mile marathon. Then break it down step by step and execute. Every move you make toward your own mission is a move away from the shadows of someone else's neglect. Men, let's talk straight. You want to know the fastest way to lose a woman who could change your life? Keep acting like she's just a passenger in your story. I've seen this mistake in boardrooms and on factory floors. People overlook the one person who could have taken the whole operation to the next level. When you treat a woman like she's optional, ignoring her ideas, brushing off her feelings, making her feel like she's competing for your time, you're not just pushing her away, you're sabotaging your own potential. I didn't build Neuralink or the Boring Company by ignoring the people who brought something unique to the table. I built them by recognizing talent, by valuing the spark that makes a team unstoppable. A woman isn't your cheerleader or your backup plan. She's a force multiplier. She's the one who can take your vision and make it exponential if you stop treating her like she's expendable. Here's what you need to stop doing, guys. Stop making her feel like she's auditioning for a role in your life. Stop giving her just enough attention to keep her hooked, but not enough to make her feel secure. That's not leadership, it's manipulation. And trust me, I know leadership. It's not about control, it's about creating a system where everyone thrives. When you value a woman's presence, when you listen to her, when you show up for her dreams as much as she shows up for yours, you're not just building a relationship, you're building a partnership that can outlast any storm. But when you treat her like she's replaceable, you're betting she'll stay small. You're betting she'll keep chasing your approval. Big mistake. Because a woman who knows her worth doesn't chase. She creates, and when she does, you'll be the one left in the dust, wondering why you didn't see her light sooner. Let me tell you about Lisa. Lisa was the kind of woman who lit up a room, smart, driven, always working on something big. She was with a guy who seemed great on paper, ambitious, charming, the whole package. But he had a habit of making her feel small. He'd dismiss her ideas, laugh off her goals, act like her passion for her startup was a cute side project. She spent years trying to prove herself to him, shrinking her dreams to fit his comfort zone. Then one day she stopped. Not because she wanted to hurt him, but because she realized her light didn't need his permission to shine. She poured her energy into her startup, worked 80-hour weeks, networked like a machine. 2 years later, her company was pulling in seven figures and she was speaking on stages he'd never even dreamed of. He tried to come back, of course sent texts, left voicemails, even showed up at one of her events. But Lisa was gone, not in anger, but in focus. Her light was too bright for his shadows. Ladies, Lisa's story is your blueprint. You don't need to wait for someone to see your potential. You don't need their stamp of approval to launch. Your worth is your rocket fuel. It's what powers you through the failures, the doubts, the late nights when you're wondering if it's all worth it. And it is every time you choose yourself, every time you say no to someone who doesn't value you, you're adding fuel to your mission. You're building a light that can't be dimmed, not by a man, not by rejection, not by anything. Start today. Pick one thing, one goal, one dream, one step, and make it yours. Don't announce it. Don't wait for applause. Just do it. Like I tell my teams, don't tell me you're going to do it. Show me the results. Men, your mission is to stop dimming her light. Stop making her feel like she's too much or not enough. Stop treating her like she's a side quest. She's not your distraction, she's your ally. When you value her, when you show up as her equal, you're not just building a relationship, you're building a future that's bigger than either of you could achieve alone. I've seen what happens when you bet on the right people. You get Tesla, you get SpaceX, you get a shot at Mars. Don't bet against a woman who's ready to build with you, because when she takes off, you'll either be on board or left behind. This is about creating something unstoppable. Ladies, your light is your power. Stop chasing shadows and start building a life that shines so bright it blinds the doubters. Men, stop treating her like she's temporary. Start seeing her as the partner who can take your mission to the stars. Because when you both stop playing small, when you both start building, you don't just change your lives, you change the trajectory of the future. We're not slowing down. We've talked about walking away from those who don't see your worth, rewriting the rules, and building a light that can't be dimmed. Now, let's get to the core of it, transforming pain into power. Ladies, this is about taking the hurt, the rejection, the moments you felt invisible, and turning them into the fuel for your own revolution. Men, this is about recognizing that a woman's strength isn't a threat, it's an asset that can elevate your entire mission. I've built companies that people called crazy, faced failures that could have crushed me, and kept going because pain isn't the end, it's the beginning of something unstoppable. Let's dive in and launch your revolution. Ladies, let's talk about pain. Not the kind you wear on your sleeve, but the kind that sits heavy in your chest when someone you trusted makes you feel like you're not enough. That late night ache when you're wondering why he didn't call, why he brushed off your dreams, why he treated your heart like it was disposable. I know that feeling not from relationships alone, but from the grind of building something no one else believes in. When I was trying to get SpaceX off the ground, we had 3 failed launches. 3. Each one was a gut punch, millions of dollars, years of work gone in flames. But I didn't let that pain define me. I used it, I studied it, broke it down, and turned it into the data I needed to succeed. That's what you need to do with your pain. Don't let it ground you, let it launch you. When a man makes you feel small, it's not just an insult, it's an opportunity to see who you really are. When the world tries to tell you you're not enough, every ignored text, every broken promise, every moment he made you question your worth, that's raw material. It's rocket fuel. You don't need to scream at him or beg for his attention. You need to take that energy and pour it into something that matters. You start by asking yourself, what's the one thing I've always wanted to do but held back because I was waiting for someone else's approval? Maybe it's writing a book, starting a company, or running a 10-mile race. Whatever it is, make it yours. Write it down, map it out like you're planning a mission to Mars. Then start executing one step at a time, even if it's messy, even if you stumble, because every step you take is a step away from the version of you that let someone else's indifference call the shots. Men, let's be real. You've got a role in this too. When you treat a woman like she's just an option, you're not just hurting her, you're fueling her revolution. And trust me, you don't want to be on the wrong side of that. I've seen what happens when you underestimate someone's potential. I've seen engineers, designers, dreamers who were written off come back and change the game. When you dismiss a woman's worth, when you make her feel like her ideas don't matter, like her emotions are a burden, you're not just pushing her away, you're giving her the spark she needs to build something you'll never be part of. I've made that mistake in business, thinking I could go it alone, ignoring the people who could have made the mission stronger. Don't make it in your relationships. A woman who's valued, who's seen, who's treated as an equal, she's not just a partner, she's a catalyst. She's the difference between a life that's good and a life that's legendary. Let's talk about Emma. Emma was a firecracker, brilliant, creative, always working on a new idea. She was with a guy who seemed supportive at first, but over time he started chipping away at her confidence. He'd interrupt her when she talked about her goals, act like her passion for photography was a hobby, not a calling. She'd share her vision for a creative studio, and he'd change the subject. Emma spent years trying to make him see her, shrinking her dreams to fit his world. Then, one day, she decided enough was enough. Not because she wanted to prove him wrong, but because she wanted to prove herself right. She took her pain, the late nights, crying, the moments she felt invisible, and turned it into power. She enrolled in a photography course, started shooting every day, built a portfolio that landed her gigs with major brands. 2 years later, her work was in galleries, and she was teaching workshops to aspiring artists. When her ex reached out trying to reconnect, she didn't even flinch. She was too busy building her empire to notice. Ladies, Emma's story is your call to action. Your pain isn't a weakness, it's a signal that it's time to stop waiting for someone else to validate you and start validating yourself. You don't need his approval to launch your revolution. You don't need his permission to be extraordinary. Start small if you have to. Read a book that challenges you. Sign up for a class that scares you. Set a goal that feels impossible and chase it like it's your last shot. I didn't get to where I am by waiting for the world to tell me I was ready. I got here by failing, learning, and building something bigger than the failures. That's what you need to do. Turn your pain into power. Turn your rejection into rocket fuel. Every time you choose yourself, every time you say no to someone who doesn't see your worth, you're launching a revolution that no one can stop. Men, your mission is to stop being the guy who sparks that revolution for the wrong reasons. Stop making her feel like she's not enough. Stop treating her like she's a side project you'll get to when you're less busy. I get it, life's a grind. You've got your own goals, your own pressure. But here's the thing, nothing great gets built alone. I didn't launch Starlink or build Tesla by myself. I had teams, partners, people who believed in the mission as much as I did. A woman isn't your backup plan, she's your co founder in a life that could change the world. When you value her, when you show up for her dreams, when you treat her like an equal, you're not just building a relationship, you're building a legacy. But when you dismiss her, when you make her feel like she's fighting for your attention, you're giving her the push she needs to leave you behind. Don't be that guy. This is about more than just relationships. It's about how we live, how we grow, how we turn setbacks into comebacks. Ladies, your pain is your power. It's the raw material for your revolution. Don't let it sit there weighing you down. Use it, build with it, launch with it. Men, stop being the reason she has to find that power in the first place. Start being the partner who helps her soar. Because when you both stop playing small, when you both start building, you don't just change your lives, you change the future. Let's make it happen. We're in the thick of it now, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. We've talked about walking away from those who don't see your worth, rewriting the rules, building a light that can't be dimmed, and turning pain into rocket fuel. But here's where we take it to the next level, mastering the art of detachment. Ladies, this is about protecting your peace like it's the most valuable asset in your portfolio, because it is. Men, this is about understanding that a woman's strength doesn't diminish you. It's the force that can elevate your entire mission. I spent my life chasing the impossible, colonizing Mars, rewiring the human brain, electrifying the world. But none of that works without focus, without cutting out the noise. Detachment isn't about being cold, it's about being unshakable. Let's dive in. Ladies, let's get real. You know that moment when you're caught in a loop, replaying his words, his silence, his half-hearted gestures, trying to make sense of why he didn't show up the way you needed? It's like debugging a piece of code that keeps crashing your system. You analyze, you tweak, you run it again, hoping for a different outcome. But here's the truth, some bugs aren't worth fixing. Some people aren't worth your energy. Detachment isn't about shutting down your emotions or pretending you don't care. It's about redirecting your focus to what matters, your mission, your growth, your peace. When I was building Tesla, there were days I could have drowned in the noise, critics, skeptics, investors who thought we'd never make it, but I learned to detach, not by ignoring the noise, but by refusing to let it steer the ship. That's what you need to do when a man makes you feel like you're not enough. Detachment is power. It's the moment you stop chasing his validation and start building your own. It's not about playing games or trying to make him jealous. It's about realizing that your peace is worth more than his attention. Think about it like this. When we're launching a rocket, we don't let a single faulty sensor derail the mission. We isolate it, work around it, keep moving. That's what you do with someone who doesn't value you. You don't let their indifference throw you off course. You protect your peace like it's the fuel that keeps your rocket flying. Start by setting boundaries, not with words, but with actions. Stop responding to late night texts that lead nowhere. Stop rearranging your life to fit his schedule. Stop giving your energy to someone who doesn't reciprocate. Instead, pour that energy into yourself. Wake up an hour earlier and work on your goals. Read something that expands your mind. Hit the gym and feel your strength grow. Every choice you make to prioritize yourself is a step toward a peace that no one can touch. Men, let's talk. You want to know the fastest way to lose a woman who could change your life? Keep pushing her to the point where she has to detach to survive. I've seen this in high stakes projects. When you ignore the critical components of a system, it fails. When you treat a woman like she's just an accessory, someone to call when it's convenient, someone to lean on but never lift up, you're not just hurting her, you're forcing her to build a life without you. I've made mistakes like that in business, thinking I could push forward without valuing the people who made the mission possible. It doesn't work. A woman who's valued, who's seen, who's treated as an equal, she's not just a partner. She's the difference between a project that stalls and one that changes the world. When you make her feel like she's fighting for your attention, you're not just dimming her light, you're giving her the push she needs to detach and soar on her own. And trust me, when she does, you'll be the one left wondering why you didn't see her worth sooner. Let's talk about Rachel. Rachel was the kind of woman who could light up a room with her ideas. She was with a guy who seemed great at first, attentive, charming, all the right moves. But over time, he started pulling back. He'd go days without texting, make plans and then flake, act like her dreams of starting a tech company were a pipe dream. Rachel spent years trying to hold it together, thinking if she just tried harder, he'd see her. Then one day, she stopped. Not because she hated him, but because she realized her peace was worth more than his chaos. She detached not with anger, but with clarity. She started working on her startup, coding late into the night, networking with people who believed in her vision. A year later, her app was getting downloads in the thousands, and she was pitching to investors. When her ex tried to slide back into her life, she didn't even blink. She was too busy building a future that didn't need his approval. Ladies, Rachel's story is your roadmap. Detachment isn't about closing your heart, it's about opening your life to what's possible. It's about saying no to the things that drain you and yes to the things that fuel you. Your peace is your power. Protect it like it's the most valuable asset you own. Start by cutting out the noise. Unfollow him if you need to. Delete the texts that keep you stuck. Surround yourself with people who see your worth, friends, mentors, colleagues who push you to be better, then get to work. Set a goal that scares you, starting a business, writing a book, running a 13-mile half marathon. Break it down into steps and execute relentlessly. Every time you choose your peace over his chaos, you're building a life that's untouchable. Men, your job is to stop being the reason she has to detach. Stop making her feel like she's competing for a spot in your life. Stop giving her just enough to keep her hooked, but not enough to make her feel secure. I've learned this the hard way in business. You don't build something great by half-assing it. You don't build a rocket by cutting corners or ignoring the team that makes it fly. A woman isn't your backup plan, she's your co-pilot. When you value her, when you show up for her dreams, when you treat her like an equal, you're not just building a relationship, you're building a partnership that can withstand any challenge. But when you push her to detach, when you make her feel like she's not enough, you're giving her the tools to build a life you'll never be part of. Don't be that guy. This is about more than just relationships. It's about how we protect what matters most, our focus, our energy, our peace. Ladies, your peace is your power. It's what keeps you steady when the world tries to knock you off course. Guard it, build with it, launch with it. Men, stop being the noise that forces her to detach. Start being the partner who helps her fly. Because when you both master the art of detachment, when you let go of the chaos and hold on to what's real, you don't just change your lives, you change the game. Let's make it happen. We're at the final frontier now, and this is where it all comes together. We've talked about walking away from those who don't see your worth, rewriting the rules, building a light that can't be dimmed, turning pain into power, and mastering the art of detachment. But this is about living like a visionary. Ladies, this is your call to stop waiting for someone else to define your story and start crafting a legacy that echoes across time. Men, this is about stepping up as a partner who doesn't just share the journey but amplifies it. I've spent my life chasing ideas that sound insane, colonizing Mars, rewiring human consciousness, building a world powered by the sun. But none of that compares to the mission of living a life so bold, so authentic, that it inspires others to do the same. Let's close this out with a bang. Ladies, let's start with you. You've been through the ringer moments where someone made you feel like your dreams were too big, your heart too soft, your presence too small. Maybe it was a guy who didn't text back, who laughed off your ambitions, who treated you like a footnote in his story. That's not just a slight, it's a challenge to rise above, to live so fiercely that his indifference becomes irrelevant. I've faced that kind of doubt my whole career. People told me electric cars were a pipe dream, that reusable rockets were impossible, that tunneling under cities was nuts. But I didn't build Tesla, SpaceX, or the Boring Company by listening to the naysayers. I built them by living like a visionary, by seeing a future no one else could, and making it real. That's what you need to do. Stop letting someone else's small-mindedness shrink your world. Start living like your life is a mission that will outlast you. What does it mean to live like a visionary? It means you stop measuring your worth by someone else's yardstick. You stop waiting for a man to validate your dreams, your beauty, your strength. You start defining success on your terms. Maybe success is launching a startup that changes an industry. Maybe it's raising kids who grow up to change the world. Maybe it's running a 26-mile marathon or writing a book that inspires millions. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's yours. Write it down, make it specific, then chase it like it's the only thing that matters. Because when you live like a visionary, you're not just building a life, you're building a legacy. You're creating something that no one, not even the guy who overlooked you, can ignore. Men, let's talk. You want to know the biggest mistake you can make? Treating a woman like she's just a chapter in your story instead of a co-author of your legacy. I've seen this in every industry I've touched. People underestimate the ones who could have taken the mission to the next level. When you treat a woman like she's temporary, like her ideas don't matter, like her presence is just a convenience, you're not just hurting her. You're cutting yourself off from a partnership that could redefine what's possible. I didn't get to where I am by going it alone. I had teams, collaborators, people who saw the vision and pushed it further than I could have on my own. Um, a woman isn't your sidekick. She's your equal, your ally, the one who can turn your mission into a movement. When you value her, when you show up for her dreams as much as she shows up for yours, you're not just building a relationship, you're building a future that's bigger than both of you. Let me tell you about Sophia. Sophia was a dreamer with a knack for design. She was with a guy who seemed supportive at first, but over time he started dismissing her. He'd roll his eyes when she talked about her vision for a sustainable fashion brand, act like her sketches were just a hobby. She spent years trying to make him see her, toning down her ambition to keep him comfortable. Then one day, she decided she was done. Not because she wanted to hurt him, but because she wanted to live for herself. She started small, taking online courses, networking with designers, saving every penny to launch her brand. 2 years later, her designs were on runways, and her brand was making waves for its eco-friendly approach. When her ex reached out, trying to reconnect, she didn't even respond. Not out of spite, but because she was too busy living a life that didn't need his validation. Ladies, Sophia's story is your blueprint. You don't need someone else to sign off on your vision. You don't need their permission to be extraordinary. Your life is your canvas, and you're the artist. Start painting. Pick a goal that sets your soul on fire, starting a company, traveling the world, creating art that moves people. Break it down into steps and execute relentlessly, like you're launching a rocket to the stars. Every time you choose your vision over someone else's doubts, you're building a legacy that no one can touch. You're not here to be someone's option. You're here to be a force, a visionary who changes the game. Men, your job is to stop being the guy who dims her vision. Stop making her feel like her dreams are too big or her passion is too much. Stop treating her like she's just along for your ride. I've learned this the hard way in business. You don't build something great by ignoring the people who make it possible. A woman who's valued, who's seen, who's treated as an equal, she's not just a partner. She's the spark that can turn your mission into a legacy. Show up for her. Listen to her ideas. Support her ambitions. Because when you do, you're not just building a relationship, you're building a future that's unstoppable. This is about more than just relationships. It's about how we live, how we dream, how we leave a mark on the world. Ladies, your life is your legacy. Stop letting someone else's indifference hold you back. Start living like a visionary, building a future that inspires others to do the same. Men, stop treating her like she's temporary. Start being the partner who helps her soar. Because when you both live like visionaries, when you both chase the impossible together, you don't just change your lives, you change the world. Let's make it happen.